Hello, Kevin. I am super excited that you're here. I'm going to be honest, I already told you this. I'm a fangirl of your company, so I cannot wait to hear more about it. So, Kevin, tell me a little bit about yourself. And then obviously, I want to hear all about what you're doing with Ampaire, where you're at currently, or where you're about to go. And I have specific questions after we get done with the introduction. So tell me about yourself. Why are you the CEO of Ampaire? How did you get
Wonderful.
started?
I'm happy to talk about it. And thank you for the discussion today. So who am I? I'm Kevin Noertker. I'm co-founder and CEO of a company named Ampaire, and we are pioneering in electrified aviation, leading in hybrid electric aviation. My background is began as an engineer, really began as a starry-eyed kid looking up at space and imagining growing up as an astronaut, becoming a pilot, enamored with nature and things that fly, which ultimately led me down a path toward becoming a mechanical engineer, research in robotics at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory while in college, and then picking up a really cool start to my career doing advanced technology research and development at a big aerospace company, Northrop Grumman. First projects I worked on were in stealth technology, which are just magical and advanced, very futuristic type stuff. The way that we make airplanes invisible, pretty neat. And then I also worked on space systems, so satellites and sensors that observe the Earth, and just really, really amazing opportunity to work on those types of programs. But then it also taught me how to lead aerospace programs, big, bulky, hard to solve problems that sometimes take a lot of time, that have a bunch of stakeholders, difficult systems. I absolutely love that aspect, that kind of a challenge. And so when it ultimately came to call it about a year before starting Ampaire, I was ready for something big. I was looking for what is a monumental opportunity that is going to transform the world. I obviously had worked in aerospace, aircraft, and space side, thinking about small satellites and what if you launched a bunch of iPhones instead of Cadillacs into space? What would that look like if you had disaggregated constellations? What kind of aircraft technology might be changing the world? And this is when my co-founder and I got together, and he pitched me the idea on we are going to change everything in aviation. We're going to take electric vehicle technology and put it into those planes. And the vision, especially at the time, but it's still our North Star, vertical takeoff and landing, supersonic, fully electric jets. Zero emission, more performance than your mind can even handle. So this is where we began, right? And while I'm a very pragmatic and grounded person, and I always drive toward like very focused efforts, one of the real big opportunities that I saw was the truth underlying that electrification story, the impact that it would drive, not just in vertical takeoff and landing supersonic jets, but even in the more humble or pragmatic applications into upgrading existing planes, decreasing carbon emissions, decreasing operating costs, serving more communities. And this is what got me so excited almost 7 years ago about this idea of Ampaire. And ever since, we have been doing it, not just dreaming it.
Yes. And I love that you use the word transform and you want to transform. You're already doing that. It's literally transformational. I'm going to tell you why I said earlier I was a fangirl, and you're going to totally laugh at me. Okay. So I was, making sure that I know exactly what you're doing. And I'm looking at your company's website and I'm watching the video, the Eco Caravan, and the first flight. So this is a hybrid electric aircraft. And the first flight, I cried. I was crying. It's like,
I
oh my
love
God,
it.
this is the greatest thing
I love it.
ever. I'm
Oh,
a
that's great.
fangirl. It's just
Mhm.
so inspirational. You're changing the world. You're
Yeah,
changing the environment. You're
it's
doing
true.
so much more than building an aircraft. So I just love what you're doing. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And you've been in business for 7 years. At what stage did you apply at Techstars? How many years were you in business when you applied?
So let's see, we founded the company. First off, thank you for sharing that with me. That is a wonderful, magical experience that you had watching the video. And we really wanted to embody those emotions, that experience that we feel. The Eco Caravan, when it flew in November of 2022, It was the world's largest, and still is the world's largest, hybrid electric aircraft, the most capable hybrid electric airplane to have ever flown. And it is the blood, sweat, and tears of a team who is trying to do something so meaningful for the world and scraping by, right? It's like the life of a startup is very volatile and it's very emotional. And I imagine this is how a mother bird feels when her chicks jump out of the nest and fly, and just the delight and ultimately the reinvestment in motivation for doing something meaningful, challenging, and visible is just immense. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing it. You're certainly sharing as we do on the team.
Yeah. And you could feel it too. I mean, when when they landed and then when you had the champagne, it was just
Yeah,
like I was
yeah.
there. I felt like I was
Uh-huh.
watching Top Gun, but a better
Mhm,
version of it.
mhm. It's a magical experience. It truly is.
Yeah.
So to your question on when did Ampaire join Techstars? So we founded the company in early 2016 and then applied for Techstars in early 2018. So we were about, call it a year and a half to 2 years in, because we really started full time in September of 2016. So call it a year and a half into our time at Ampaire, we'd gotten some early product market fit in concept, had customers who told us that yes, if we succeeded, they would be happy to look at buying our product. We had refined the approach. We had really solidified the direction. And then that led us to realizing that as first-time founders and as very humble people, we also recognized we could use some help. And that's where we looked to Techstars.
Yeah. So you got into Techstars, obviously. That's why you're
Yeah.
here. Um, I know this was a while ago, but when you were going through the program, was there anything that stands out to you that you were like, whoa, I would not have been able to do this without Techstars, or I wouldn't have learned this without Techstars, or maybe would have learned it later. But was there
Sure.
anything that stands out from your memory?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that stands out most like significant and strong is actually the people. Like, right, Techstars is the global network that helps entrepreneurs succeed. And that all begins with that time in your program, but extends far, far beyond that. And it was, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it right now. It was the colleagues and founders of the other companies and the relationships that I built with them while going through mentor madness and then the building and then the building out of our presentation for demo day. There was so much that we did on the company, but a lot of that relationship building, the insights, those are things that have endured just as long or maybe even stronger than some of like the nuance of what I happen to do on the second Tuesday of the program. And I think that that's ultimately where the most significant value has showed up for our company. One of my colleagues who was a founder of a different company in our cohort, he introed me to the folks who ended up leading my Series A. I'm still close with those founders who, when somebody's negotiating a deal that they think is similar to one that I've looked through, or we're trying to hire like an outsized employee, like maybe a C-level executive, like how did you go about that process? Or hey, how did you price this type of a service that you provided to another company? These are all things that in the day in the life of a CEO or a startup founder, you need to be able to move quickly on, but you don't always have the resource or the experience to know what to do. And having, in our case, about 10 other just all-star people leading companies by your side, you build strong relationships, and ultimately those really do endure. And then the second one is one of my lead mentors from the program, who is a partner in the aviation practice at McKinsey and Company, who was partnered on the Techstars Energy program in Norway in 2018. He and I still, I mean, it's like he came and spoke at an entire company offsite to inform our team of the broader market. He's a sounding board and advisor and friend even today, years after the program, as are some of the other mentors from the program. So those relationships endure and are so meaningful.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, that the network makes the difference because it's sometimes you wouldn't get in front of those people, you wouldn't meet those people, you wouldn't even know
Mhm.
that they existed. And then now that you do, you can really, really leverage each other. And it does, it and I know this sounds cheesy, but it is Techstars for life, because
Mhm.
there's so many people that start like their third companies with somebody that they met in their Techstars accelerator that they never like would have actually done anything with. There's just so many different ways that people network after the fact. I really love to hear that. So now tell me, so obviously you graduated from Techstars, your business is blooming, it's looking so good, you're doing great things. Where are you at currently with capital?
Sure. So where we're at currently, I'll give a little bit of history. Over the last 6.5 years, have raised about $30 million in venture capital, equity, or convertible capital. We've also gone after government funding in order to have some non-dilutive funding, have raised about $20 million through grants and contracts with the US government, whether it's NASA, the Department of Energy, some international stuff. So all in about $50 million of capital into the organization presently, or like active contracts. I'm actively raising, as are most founders. It's important to keep the lights on. And we do have an active round and a signed term sheet and a few months here to fill in the remainder of the round. So super excited about the potential that's ahead as well.
Yeah, definitely. There's potential ahead.
Yeah.
um, I have a question for you for the founders that are listening. They're at the very
Mhm.
beginning. They haven't raised yet. They haven't even started Techstars yet. They're just on the fence of doing it. What, what would you tell a new founder about your experience? Like, I'd love to hear what was the hardest thing so far, which stage maybe was the hardest, and what's been the easiest and the most fun stage.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with the easiest and most fun, which is if you pick the right why behind what you're doing, the right company, the right approach, if you pick something that is truly and deeply motivating, then that's the easy part, is like having that underlying motivation of driving forward, and all of the volatility and relentless like overcoming of challenges, that will all be so much easier, and maybe requires as a prerequisite you to have just an unconditional passion for what you are doing. Because if you're in it because, yeah, well, this is a cool idea that might make some money, when it gets hard, it's really hard. And it's even harder if you don't have that depth of conviction around the mission of your organization. One of the hardest things that has occurred, and I'll just say this is generalizable, is if you're onto something good, there are going to be a ton of opportunities. But if you pursue all opportunities, it's really likely you'll complete none of them. And what is difficult, probably most difficult, especially when you're so passionate about it and you want to move so quickly, you want to stretch so far, is remaining focused on what matters most. And that job one, what are you here to deliver, and in what time frame are you going to deliver it, and what resources do you need to go deliver it? Keeping focused on that is, it's so important. And it at times is difficult, because there will be very justified and good intending people and opportunities that will pull you in other directions and say, well, why don't we also do this? It's such a good idea. And oftentimes they are, in isolation, on their own, great ideas. And maybe somebody should start another company to do those. But to know what is your mission, what is your number one job to get done, and to focus on it is an immense challenge. But if you can do it right, you give yourself the best shot of actually making it through the gauntlet of building a successful company. And at that point in time, maybe you go and do all these other shiny object type things.
That's great advice. I actually just talked to a founder earlier, and he said very similar things, that his managing director said, you gotta stay disciplined.
Yeah,
Shiny objects, don't look,
that's
stay
right.
disciplined. So it's interesting you're saying the same thing.
It's good. I think it's good advice. I generally, treat advice as a gift. You receive it, say thank you, and then decide what you'll do with it. Maybe use it every day, maybe regift it. But this advice in particular is stuff that I do think is very generalizable across all. And I'll also say it's generalizable into the program. So if you're a founder thinking about participating in Techstars, um, one of the challenges I had during the program is I didn't have the same level of focus that I'm speaking about now. And there were so many things I wanted to do, and I kind of got a lot of them done partially, but I walked out of the program without the firm, announceable progress deal that you really want at the end of your 3 months. You want something that, you've gained 2 years of progress in the course of 3 months type thing, or something that 10x's your company right away. And we built a lot of good relationships, and that was beneficial. But because I lacked that focus on what am I here to achieve, and I kind of tried to do too much during the program, I then didn't actually get that last, big partnership signed and through the finish line fully defined. And, I've maintained relationships and we've gotten those over in the following years, but focus gets you through.
Yeah, 100%. And then when we were talking about capital earlier and investment, did Techstars help you out with anything there?
That's right. So, I'll go through a few types of help that Techstars has provided. During the course of the program, they were intros to investors, but we also had learned some strategy for fundraising, even how to have a conversation with an investor as a human being, not as a bag of capital, but as like a person that you're partnering with, or as an organization that you're partnering with. It helped us get our heads on straight for how to approach the whole activity. During Techstars, we were introed to potential investors. Subsequent to Techstars, we continued to get intros to investors. For my Series A round, Techstars did come in and participate as an investor and doubling down on their Ampaire equity, which is always nice to see. And still, still today, when I have a need or a request. I mean, my managing director reached out to me. This is from the 2018 program, reached out to me like less than a month ago saying, "Hey, Kevin, I saw this news. Like, do you need an intro? Would you like support?" It is this consistent drumbeat of different types of support over the course of the program, and certainly is helpful.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm going to ask you one last question, and I want to know what is next for Ampaire?
Well, next for Ampaire, again, job one, delivering the world's first FAA-approved hybrid electric aircraft for commercial operation. This aircraft, which we call the Eco Caravan, at its core has what we look at as the operating system for all of electric aviation. This is, batteries through the power electronics and motor and software paired up with the rest of our hybrid system. These are the brains that are going to change everything in the world, whether it's on our first launch product, the Eco Caravan, or any subsequent plane that's out there. So right now we're laser focused on getting that aircraft through the certification process, which is about a two-year process from where we are today. So my goal by the end of 2024 is to have all of us with the opportunity to buy a ticket on one of Ampaire's hybrid electric planes, first in the world.
I want to be on this plane so bad.
It is majestic. And if you think watching the videos of our planes flying is great, like one of the most breathtaking moments that I've ever had in my entire life was flying up in one of our hybrid electric planes. I was over in the right seat. The pilot hands me the controls, and then we cut the combustion engine back to idle, and we're just going fully electric, wisping through the air, nice and quiet, fully sustainable, no emissions. And that moment, and sometimes like, when you end up tunnel vision, you realize something, that aha, eureka moment, everything gets quiet. In this case, it was literally quiet, realizing that this is the future of everything that of all of aviation, and that those are breathtaking and inspiring for me. And I can't wait till everyone gets the chance to fly in the planes. Maybe commercially we'll keep the engine on as well, but it was just amazing. And I hope everybody can join us on the journey.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. We're super excited. We're proud of you. Techstars just thinks the world of you and your company. You have already achieved such amazing things. So we can't wait to see what the future brings for you.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for joining up with us, and that's an exciting future ahead.
Thank you.